Hello, ladies and gentlemen. On the 26th of April 2018, the server of War Thunder was updated to include the economy changes which I talked about a little bit previously, maybe a few days ago now. If you want to go and see those videos, there will be links in the description for you, so all you have to do is click on them. At the same time, there were some hidden changes which were also made to the game, and thank God Mike 10D is about to be able to list them out for us in a wonderful spreadsheet. So you'll find that in a Google Doc in the description as well. Now, the general belief of the community has been very negative towards this, and I voiced my opinions as I went through them generally, and there have been a few which have been changed overall, but still there's obvious patterns here that need to be addressed and talked about. So the first one is the fact that bombers are getting shafted quite badly. On the other hand, there is a few of them, such as the B-29, which has come out a little bit less unscathed after a little bit of testing and maybe some feedback from the people. Now, the players I should say, if you actually want to see all the full changes as well, there have been a few tweaks and changes, so please go to the link in the description, which will have that in it as well. As you can tell, there's going to be a lot of links in the description here, but the main points we're going to be talking about is, should we use, first of all, repair costs as a balancing tool, and on top of that, should bonuses be uniform or should they be different compared to which vehicle you're using at which BR. So the first thing that I want to get out of the way is a lot of people are reacting very negatively to the Mike 10D Google Doc. Not because of Mike 10D and his work, everybody is very thankful about that, but because what they've done is they've read the top one and thought that all of the changes have basically meant that we're going to lose more reward from every vehicle. The A20G is actually going down in its average rewards. Now, if you actually compare that to the A20G in the US tree, when we look at the new economy changes, you'll find something startling. The A20G is also going down in repair costs by 570. Now, if you go to the next one, which is the A26B, you'll see that the rewards on average go up for the A26B. Now if we go to the A26B in the forum page, you'll find out that the repair cost is also going up. So as you can see from this point, you can go through all of them and check this. I did it myself. Anything that is getting an increased repair cost is also getting an increased amount of average silver lions or average multiplier, and also, you know, reward boost to compensate. At the same time, everything that has gone down is getting a lower reward. So basically what we're seeing here is we're seeing a slight tweak in the amount of rewards you get compared to the slight tweak in the repair costs, and they are melding them together to try and form a basis for how much stuff is going to cost. This means that if you have a lower repair cost, you're also going to get lower rewards for your vehicle. If you have a higher repair cost, you're going to get higher rewards. So if you have a high repair cost, you do really well in a game, and you're able to survive, then what will happen is you'll get a hell of a lot of money out of it. But if you're in a vehicle which has quite a low repair cost, and you go through the battle and you don't die, you'll get less reward. Now for me, the system is completely fine. It's also been the system which has been used for years in War Thunder. It is a system which promotes certain vehicles above others in their rewards to try and make them so they're used a little bit more. And as Mike 10D has said, there is obviously an algorithm at play here when it comes to all of these values changing. I mentioned many times in the planned economy video that there is no way this is done by hand. There is definitely somebody behind the scenes who has created some kind of equation or algorithm which has gone through all of the vehicles and pulled out these numbers. Now obviously some human testing has also been done, which is why the B29 has been decreased from the insanity of what it was, but the Ferdinand is unfortunately still the most expensive ground vehicle for the Germans. No idea why. But pretty much you have two competing systems here. You have one which is changing the repair cost and one which is changing the reward, and they are working in harmony together. And what is really good is the fact that Mike 10D has provided us with the Google Doc. I feel like a lot of people have looked at the economy changes. They've seen massive increases in the repair cost and also the ammunition cost for rank 6 vehicles, for heavy bombers, for certain planes in the tree, and they've become worried because they believe that the rewards will stay the same. Well, obviously for this, it shows the Google Docs shows that that is not the case. The rewards are going to change, or have already changed, to compensate for the differences that are created by the repair cost changing. Now the issue is that now you're just going to have to do better in the game. This is obviously an issue for a lot of people. Not everybody can be above average when it comes to a War Thunder skill player, or whatever you want to say, so therefore it's going to impact people who are more on the lower skill end, and it's going to help people who are on the higher skill end. The lower skill end players are going to lose more silver lines because they're not going to do as well in games, where the guys on the upper side will either not really take a hit, not really see a difference, or they'll see a minor hit or a slight bump, depending on the vehicle that we're talking about. So with that said, it seems like with this new system, when it comes to Silver Lions, there is a definite emphasis on skill. And to be honest, I kind of like that. I like the idea that skilled players will get more Silver Lions out the game. The rewards are much more spread out across how well you actually do in a game, and your count of Silver Lions will depend much more on how well you do in said game, instead of random rewards which you will get after the match. On top of this, there is obviously an overarching point here, and the overarching point is that the economy system is being used as a balancing factor, and this is seen through the fact that there are specific vehicles which have been targeted by us, which, when you look at it from a layman's point of view, or when you look at it from a human point of view, they make absolutely no sense. So I talked about these in the last video. The Ferdinand always comes to mind. The second one is the Lancaster. The Sterling B Mark III is another, and also some of the other heavy bombers from the British side. The Hunter being lower than the heavy bombers, the Meteors also being lower, the R2Y2s all having different repair costs overall, which makes absolutely no sense, and also the change with Italian vehicles, and also all of the Japanese changes. Let's just see if they changed the R2Y2s at all. But the first thing that I do want to clarify, no they didn't, they're the same as before. What I want to clarify, because it seems like a lot of people in the War Thunder Reddit thread are misreading the economy changes, or they just haven't read through them and corresponded them to the planned economy changes. So they haven't married the rewards with the actual just repair cost changes. It will make sense if you do that, because basically what I said before. So just make sure you do that in your own head. So as I said, let's talk about balancing by repair cost. For me personally, I would much prefer if we balanced by gameplay mechanics and also by BR. There are some problem vehicles that have been added to the game which do fundamentally break the game if they are left to their own devices. The TU-4 was a machine which was added before it was ready, and we're talking about the game here in general. and it was added, if you remember, 0.3 BR above the B-29, apart from being infinitely better than it because of its defensive armament, and the B-29 already being at a BR which was too low. On top of this, what the TU4 did was have to add a mechanic to the game to stop people spamming it and ending matches within 5 minutes. The reason why we have the 4 limit on a bomber is because of the TU4 and, by extension, the B-29. And because of this, it has affected many nations in their playstyles and how the meta basically changed around them. The B-17 used to be a very popular plane. The reason for this is because you could talisman it and you could pretty much just grind out the whole of the American jet tree, and then if you felt like it, you could play them. You could grind it out incredibly quickly in the B-17. What you would see is 6 to 8 B-17s a match, maybe 2 lonely fighters who had to duke it out versus about 10 Spitfires, and this was pretty much what Rank 4 was. It was Hokkaido in this sense. Now when the bombers were limited to 4, you saw a massive drop off in the B-17s because it was a much longer way to actually get a match. So obviously people becoming impatient, or people just wanting to play stuff else, or the people who were abusing the system decided that they were going to move on and do something else. So that's where the term flavor of the month comes from. So when we talk about these decisions made, they're made from a standpoint of changing the game mechanics in order to be able to facilitate certain aircraft. Now we're seeing this now with rank 6 aircraft, where they are going to have to fundamentally change the game in order to fit them in the game. And then with rank 6 tanks, they have had to fundamentally change their vision, and also destroyers with ships, where the vision was completely changed, scrapped and made anew to accommodate specific vehicles. So with this said, with them changing game mechanics in order to facilitate certain playstyles and also certain types of stuff going on, is it wrong to then change it so these vehicles become incredibly expensive to use, even though you've molded the game to try and fit them in and failed? Now the two competing ideas are: you either price them out of the game because they fundamentally don't fit into the game unless you completely once again try and change the whole system instead of trying to jerry-rig it, which is what happened with the TU4 and the B-29. So you can either price them out or you can take them out of the game. Now, players don't like vehicles being taken out of the game. It seems like the majority of people, after talking about the Tiger II 105, the Panther II, believed it shouldn't be taken out of the game. But the second point, if people said if it is taken out of the game, it shouldn't be taken away from the players who have already researched it. This is the same which happened with the Kingfisher, the Italian planes in the German tree, and many others which have been removed from the game. So with that said, the general consensus of the community that this is a bad idea. So what options do you have from balancing this game? From my point of view, the B-29 and the TU4, which is the most extreme example of this idea, but it can be applied to others. It's just very easy, very visually obvious to players who've been around for at least a year or two to understand where I'm coming from with this, so that's why I'm using it. What is the way that you balance these machines? Do you bump up the price to ridiculous levels? Or do you fundamentally change how the game works to fit one aircraft in? Or do you remove it and have the community go after you in a big way? Because that's what they would do. There hasn't been a single War Thunder vehicle which has been removed from people who have researched and bought it. Same with premium vehicles. Because, well, it's just a terrible career move if you want to do that. To sell somebody a product, or for somebody to put time into a product, and then take it away generally doesn't go down too well. But anyway, so what you've got to do is you've got to find a way to balance these things. And the only way you can do it is by fundamentally changing the game or changing the silver line cost of the machine to make them unplayable in their sense, and even if you do well in them, you're still going to struggle to make the money back. Even though it is incredibly easy to make money in the B29, even though a lot of people say it's hard to do, it ain't hard to do. You just got to be patient with it and side climb a little bit. But nobody does that because they're impatient as fuck. But anyway, back to the point. With all of this said, I can understand why they try and price them out of oblivion. But the thing is, it doesn't fix the issue. If the B29 was not changed back to its original, repair cost stock, which is what we see in the planned economy tab, one of the problems that would have arose, which was definitely going to arise, is that people would just change their playstyle to break the game once again. We saw this with the B17, the HU177 when it came out. People would find the way to play it, abuse the system, and then be able to do really well in it, get a bunch of silver lines and RP, and then just skirt home. And then if they decided to try and patch that system, or change the flight model of the aircraft, a new system would be able to be created, and people would find it, people would play it. So this is what we call a meta in games. People find a specific way of playing, it is the most optimal way of playing, therefore we will play it because we want to win. It's basic, psychology of humans. You want to win. You don't want to lose 50 games in a row. You want to win 50 games in a row. So with all this said, changing the economy may be something seen as a way to price vehicles out. But after having a look at the statistics of when this has happened in the past, it didn't. People just changed their playstyle of the machines which got hit the hardest. The Japanese have been dropped a hell of a lot in their RP costs, in their repair costs. Does that mean we'll see an influx of Japanese players? Maybe. But will the meta change because of it? No, I don't think so, because those Japanese players will play exactly the same as the other Japanese players, which figured out how to efficiently play those planes a very long time ago. But on top of that, will something like this break the game entirely? The only way it breaks the game entirely is if they make it and price out specific BRs of vehicles. Now we're kind of seeing that with rank 6 right now, but you can still make money at rank 6 as long as you do well. And as I said, this comes into the skill argument that I talked about earlier. Rank 6 is very much about skill right now when it comes to the amounts of silver lines you can make. And at the end of the day, is it even worth thinking about if you're at rank 6? Is silver lines something that you should be worried about, or should you be worried about other things? But that's another, topic for another time. I think I'll bring other people in for that. So at the end of the day, if we look at these planned economy changes, especially when you mix them with the economy changes presented by Mike 10D, what has happened is not that much. What we've seen is specific aircraft and tanks have got more expensive or cheaper, but they have been matched by their rewards, which are going to be different depending on what aircraft or what tank you're using. So, as I said, go and look at the file itself, compare the A20G, all of its new rewards, compare it to the planned economy changes for it, then do it for the next one, the A26B, then do it for the next one, which is of course the A26B10, and you'll understand why a lot of people are getting annoyed about something that you don't really have to get annoyed about. It just seems kind of common practice here that if you lower the amount of money that somebody has to pay for a vehicle, then you're going to lower the reward as well. Otherwise, what you're going to get is a lot of people abusing specific vehicles. Is this algorithm the best? I think there is definitely some machine error involved, but I don't see the equation. I'd like to see the formula, you know, to see what's going on with it, but it does seem that there are a few decisions that have been made by it which are a bit all over the place. But then again, I don't know the information that it's working off, which is another issue that we have, and that information we'll never know. But at the end of the day, is it a good idea to balance by economy? For specific vehicles, yes, because otherwise you're going to create a game which will be unplayable for a bunch of other vehicles, or you would have to fundamentally change how the game works to facilitate them. And because the decision was made before in order to put these vehicles in, you can't just take them out without a furor from the community. I just hope that people read the Google Doc that Mike Tengd has actually put in, read it thoroughly, and compare it to the economic changes, and I think you'll understand what's going on here, instead of blind rage, which is something that I'm seeing quite a lot of today, and have seen for about a month now, when it comes to topics where people just need to sit back, relax, and actually read about it instead of going apeshit. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.